This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guest today is Joe Macknicki, who works in IT, the mystery world of IT. And actually, our relationship is very special because I was president of Manchester Community College for a long time, and in 2001, I think it was,
Yes,
you were valedictorian.
that's right. Yeah,
Wow.
first one in with a degree in CIS since I think I heard '74.
The first one with a degree in CIS for a long time, and probably the first male in some years too. It's mostly women who become, at least at Manchester, it was mostly women who became valedictorian. How many credits did you accumulate? Do you remember to become valedictorian? You must have taken everything
I
there
took
is.
all of my courses at Manchester Community College, from walking in the door and signing up for classes, right up until the day I graduated. It was all at Manchester.
And how many? Do you remember how many credits?
I don't remember the.
And you must have had. I mean, you must have gotten an A in every single
It was
course
4.0
that you.
across the board. Yeah.
Wow, it's better than my record.
Oh, well,
And that included not only computer stuff, but I assume
the
English and
basic electives.
sociology and all.
yeah, effective speaking. I took basic piano one semester.
What
And,
was the hardest course you took?
the hardest course I took there? Possibly not the hardest one, but the one that you really had to get to move on was programming, logic, and design. That was the very first part of it. If you didn't pass that course, then you didn't need to go on and take any of the other courses.
Oh, dear.
That was the one that either made you or break, or broke you, and you
Yeah.
had to make sure you really had those underlying fundamental principles ready before you went on to anything else. And I saw a lot of fellow students that just kind of, well, this isn't all that important. This is just background stuff. And then when they got into the more advanced languages, really started to fumble about because they didn't have those building blocks in place
Yeah.
to work on.
Well, I remember. I mean, Manchester is quite a large community college, and I remember that year reviewing the final possible candidates for valedictorian, and they all had 4.0s. You had even more 4.0s than anybody else.
There were the number of people
was
in
quite
my class that
intimidating.
had 4.0 grade point average. There was about 4, maybe even 5 of us that actually got a medal. For
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
So, yeah.
and you got you got more than the medal. You actually got to speak.
Yeah.
Well, this is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back momentarily. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guest today is Joe Macknicki, who's been working in IT at Middlesex Community College for how long?
Since 2007.
Since 2007. And before that, you were working at Manchester Community College, where I remember very well that you were the valedictorian. Let's go way back. When did you start? When did you take your first course in a community college?
That was the fall of 1996.
Fall of 1996. So you probably still remember. Why did you go to a community college in the first place?
I always wanted to go to college and just didn't have the resources. I went into the Army right out of high school and did 4 years there, got out honorably, and had a bunch of jobs up until 1996. It was probably a year or so before that when I found out through a friend that she was going to college on a veteran's tuition waiver. And
Okay, yeah.
so that as soon as I heard that, that was my ticket. I was driving truck.
Nobody had told you during your 4 years that you could get free tuition?
No, in my 4 years in the Army, no, they don't know that. That's a state thing. That's
Okay,
Connecticut
okay.
State does that
Yeah.
for its veterans. And so I found that out, and that was my opportunity to go. And so I started going at nights and work at driving.
So you were a part-time student initially?
Yeah.
Do you remember the very first course you took?
Yes, I do. I remember the first. It was Sandy Tomedy who
Okay, yeah.
was doing. It was accounting. Basic accounting was the first class I took.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And you must have gotten an A in that.
I did. However, she gave us a pop quiz about maybe a month or two into it, and I failed it miserably. And that was kind of a wake-up call for me, and I didn't look back after that.
Now, do you think it made a difference that you happened to go to a community college rather than a 4-year baccalaureate institution?
I don't honestly know. I'm the first person in my family to actually go to college, so it's a new experience. I'm sure anything would be better than having just a high school diploma. But I did like how committed and how passionate the teachers were about it. One in particular during my education was Marlene Camper, who was the head of the
Yes, I
department.
know her well.
And she really had her stuff together and gave you wanted to see you succeed. And that's what I noticed at the community college. Faculty wants to see somebody succeed. They realize somebody's getting a second chance or something, and that they want to see you make the most of it. They're there to help you. And they aren't just doing it for a paycheck. They want to make sure.
And when you started getting A's, what did your family say, or did you keep it a big secret for a while?
No, it was, I'd get the cards and the letter, the president's list, every semester when the grades would come out, and if you were a good student, you were on the dean's list, and then if you had A's, you got the president's list. So these cards would come in at the end of every semester.
Right.
And, because it was, 3 classes, sometimes only 2, depending on how many credits they were during the course of my studies, they just kept piling up. And well, my wife always had faith in me. She always knew I was smart and everything like this. So for her, it wasn't anything big. But, she's got to put up with me 24/7. But
she wasn't surprised.
So she wasn't surprised at all, right? And my father was just glad that I was going. And I got to say, it was probably the very last semester when you wanted to finish that last semester with an A. That was the one that was probably the most anxious and had the most anxiety.
Now, at graduation, where you spoke as valedictorian, did they all show up?
Yes, I had quite an entourage. I had my wife and her parents, and my dad was there. We had some of her other relatives there. We had, all in all, probably about 10 people that showed up. Yeah.
I still remember one person, I've forgotten whether it was a valedictorian or a salutatorian, who actually rented a bus. Yes.
We didn't rent a bus, but we had
for their family. They showed up in a bus. It was the funniest thing. It was wonderful. Showed up in the bus, and this person came out in full regalia, the whole bit, about an hour before the show. Now, I noticed that you, by this time when you were graduating, you were already working for the college.
Yes, I started on. There was an opportunity when they started doing the additions on Manchester Community College, specifically the LRC, the Learning Resource Center, was being constructed. And it was just nearing the construction phase to where it was actually going to get populated with the computers and all the technology. And that summer, there was an opportunity for a temporary part-time worker. And so...
that's how it starts sometimes.
And so, I went on for the summer, and then by the end of the summer, when the semester had started, there was an opportunity for a full part-time position, which I ended up getting in that way and working.
So this is about 10 years ago.
Yes, right.
And then in 2007, you left me. You moved over. Well, I've joined you now.
Yes.
You moved over to Middlesex Community College. Of course, it's a smaller place than Manchester, but that means probably that you have a greater variety of tasks. You have less specialists here.
Exactly. It's a smaller department, and people do overlap each other's skill sets for coverage and whatnot.
So what's the main thing that you do here at Middlesex?
Well, we keep the classroom technology ready for the ongoing semesters. If there's programs that need to be taught, whether it's Microsoft programs or computer-aided design, and these have to be installed, wherever classroom is going to be using them. And we keep them up to date, as well as the stability of the machines, and protect them again with the antivirus software and that. So we want to keep it a safe environment and a secure environment.
Right.
And it's maintenance, swapping out old machines with new ones. A lot of that stuff happens during the breaks, of course, over the summer.
Now, the world of computers, of course, changes constantly.
Yes.
How do you learn what's going on? Is it by reading? Is it by doing? Is it by taking courses? How do you keep up to date?
Basically, all of the above.
Well, which is the?
Well, the internet is actually a very good tool to learn about new and breaking things. There's a lot of resources out there that you can look up as far as fixes, as far as forums for a lot of people might be having the same kind of issues that you have at a particular place or with a certain type of operating system, that you look into these discussions and find out what different people have tried, what's worked, what hasn't, and filter that through to what might suit your needs. So you take this big vast thing and kind of hone it down to where it's going to work for you.
Now, where did you learn your people skills? Because one of the things I've always admired is you not only know your stuff, but you know how to talk to ignoramuses like me.
Well, I think one of the things you need to be a good tech and really just a good person is patience. And you have to have patience, not only with other people, but also even with yourself. Sometimes you get stuck on a problem and you can't, you keep trying it and you keep getting the same error, and sometimes you have to walk away from it and come back with a refreshed mind or whatnot. But it's patience, and also I just like working with people. It's what I like about being at a community college or in a college environment. It's not where you're at a corporation where you're stuck in a cubicle all day and you're typing out code. I like the classroom environment. A lot of people get nervous about going into the middle of a class when the teacher can't log on, and you're up at the front of the room, and all the students are looking at you.
They're all watching, yeah.
And it's a bit of a pressure thing there, but I enjoy that aspect of it. I like working with people, and so I know that there are. What I like about a college too is there's a lot of different disciplines. If you have a question, you can probably find somebody on campus that can answer it for you. And so
that's for sure.
And even though someone might not know that much about computers, they could walk circles around you about economics or sociology or anything else. So you always have to have that respect for people, even if.
Do you find you work more with faculty or with administrators or with students or community? What groups do you interact with most?
I would say by and large faculty, only because they're using the technology to teach their classes and we support that. But also I think the most important one is the students, because we work at the help desk and a lot of times new students, we're the first voice they talk to at Middlesex Community College. You're trying to log on to MyComnet. And I always, you're an agent for the college and you represent the college, and how you get along with that person on the phone gives them a good impression or a bad impression overall about the whole college before they even set foot in the classroom.
So they might even call you from home and
a lot of times they're at home and they're trying to log on with their computer onto MyComnet and they have a problem with their initial password. And you just have to be patient with them. It's something new to them.
Right.
I mean, at the beginning of the semester, I'll help 100 people with their passwords to get started at the beginning of the semester, returning students.
Can you generalize? Do most of them have the same kind of issue, or are they all?
It's basically the banner number, and I always let everybody know your banner number is basically your social security number for college. It's not going to change if you don't remember it.
Yeah.
You will.
Yeah.
That doesn't change it. And once they get that in, and a whole lot
and some
of
people, you find some people forget their banner number or get it wrong, or
not too often. It's once they get going, it's on your ID tag if they have one, so they can always refer to that. And there is a tool online to find out what your banner number is. If you've forgotten it, you put in your social security number and date of birth, and it spits it out what your banner number is. But it's basically log-on procedure. It's by and large at the beginning of the semester. It's just something new to.
Do students worry a lot about privacy issues? You mentioned social security number. I'm not going to ask you yours on the air.
No. Yes and no. That's one of the things that while we have access, we also have to have security too, and we take it seriously in IT. We don't give out information like that. Even if the password reset, a lot of times they have to come into campus with a photo ID. We don't do resets over the phone.
This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back momentarily. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and my guest today is Joe Macknicki, who works in IT and has wonderful people skills, so he can explain IT to people like me. But I was once president at Manchester Community College up in Manchester, and he was the valedictorian in 2001. So this guy I'm talking to is smart, no question about it. And we've been talking about what people in IT do these days. What's the major thing that you feel you still have to learn about? The field is changing so fast.
And that's just it. It's not like if you have a degree in some other field, like history doesn't change if you get a degree in ancient civilization.
Historians who are listening to us probably would claim it does, but it doesn't change as fast as IT.
Not as fast as IT, exactly.
No way.
So there's always the balance between the new hardware that's coming out and the operating systems that run on that hardware, and then the applications that run in those operating systems. So you have those three things.
Are you the kind of IT person who always has to have the latest gadget in front of him, or?
Not so much. I mean, I've been, Verizon finally came out with the iPhone, except they're too late for me. It would have been nice if they'd come out with it about 3 years ago. But yeah, I do have, a lot of, I guess you could call them toys at home or whatnot. But we've got the web cameras at home and the laptop, and we got the iMac, and it's good. It's stuff that I kind of need. You might consider it toys, but it's kind of tools for me.
Yeah. So what's the next big thing that you're going to have to learn about, would you say?
Well, what's coming down the road for us and the rest of the community colleges is Windows 7. Right now, everyone's gotten used to Windows XP. We've known and loved it for a number of years now. However, we kind of sidestepped Windows Vista, which came out a couple of years ago, and that just, we were waiting for Microsoft to get the bugs out of that. And basically, Windows 7 is basically Windows Vista with a new paint job. And
so what is there a significant difference between Windows 7 and what we have
there
today?
Is, it's a different look and feel for the users.
You're frightening me already. In what way is it different?
Well, they got rid of the start button on the bottom left-hand side. Now it's just a marble-looking thing with the Windows logo that you use, and you click. It's the same idea. You click on that, and it gives you the menu to go to your programs, or if you need to shut down the computer, you do that.
You haven't scared me yet.
They just don't call it the start button yet.
Well, that's not a significant change.
Yeah, and tabbed browsing, which we've already seen. If we all have Office 2007, and that's where instead of having the pull-down menus at the top, you get the tabs going across. So Windows 7 is basically like that as far as look and feel. I know a lot of people that already they've bought new laptops recently in the last year or so, and they're running Windows 7, and these are people that just have them for home use, and they pick up on it pretty easy.
So I'm intrigued. We now have a generation, of course, our children and grandchildren who've grown up with computers. They can't imagine a world without. In 10 years, 15 years, there'll be very few of us left who remember a world, and I'm talking about myself, not you, you're very young, but people who remember a world where there were no computers. Is that going to be a different world when everybody uses a computer the way I used a telephone as a kid?
It's getting that way, and what you're seeing is the technology is just kind of morphing into one device. You have the smartphone now, where you used to have a cell phone and a Palm PDA. Now the two are wrapped into one. Now the smartphone can surf the web, where you used to need a laptop or a tablet. So it's kind of, they're working on smaller and faster and more functionality, and kind of putting all the eggs in one basket.
So is life going to be easier or more difficult in 15 or 20 years?
It'll be faster, I think, as far as being able to keep up to date with everything. Easier, it'll be easier as long as the satellite doesn't go out of orbit. You're going to need that. It's just going to be a paperweight if the battery dies on it, or if you don't have a good connection. But the advances on it are, with speed, like I said, and just the interoperability.
But people will still be using keyboards, presumably.
Their input devices, for example, in the library, we have an assistive technology workstation that's designed for people with special needs. And that has speech recognition.
And anyone in the community can come in.
That's right. Yeah, it's not just for students. It's with anybody who has any kind of. And we've had one person that came in and helped me along with this. What do you need to see? What do you like to see? How do you like it set up? Kind of give us a little demonstration on how you use it. And
what do you mean by voice recognition?
You put on a headset that has a microphone, and you have to train it a little bit. You have to create a profile for yourself, and it basically has you read a small story. Or I think when I did it, I was reading JFK's inaugural address. And then
Okay.
and then it just
Ask not. Yeah.
exactly, and it it samples your voice to where it can recognize that you can give the computer commands, as in printing or open up a page or do a search on this, and then also speech to text. So if you can actually just almost like dictation, you sit there and talking to the microphone, and the words come up on the screen as you're reading.
So, I mean, obviously I'll be retired in a few months, but say in 10 years, I could come into the office where I'm sitting now, and there's something up on the screen, and I want 10 copies. I could just say print 10 copies, and it would do it?
It's getting kind of like Star Trek, yeah, to where, it's spoken commands and that, they're kind of doing that a little bit on the home front of it too. When you walk in and you turn on the light, turn up the heat or whatever, and it recognizes your commands and does that. So one of the things about with technology and where it's going is last week with the Watson computer on Jeopardy. That's one of my favorite shows, and it was really interesting to see IBM's supercomputer compete against the two reigning champions, all-time champions of Jeopardy, and it was very
I've forgotten who won.
Watson ended up doing pretty good. They did round one. They did it over 3 days, and Watson was tied after the first day with one of the contestants, but then he ran away with it on day 2 and day 3.
Yeah, and I've read about chess being played, of course, by a computer.
Gary Kasparov being defeated by another IBM computer, and that was, I think, almost 10 years ago with Big Blue.
Should we humans be threatened by this? I mean, we like to think that ultimately we're in control of our environment. Here's a machine that can do something better than we can. Should we be threatened by this?
Always keep in mind this. I harken back to the days when I was in high school playing video games and pumping quarters into these things, and it would always end up kicking my butt. And I always had the consolation in that I could always walk around behind the machine and unplug it.
So you can unplug Watson, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And all this stuff.
Slightly desperate move, but anyway, yeah.
Well, if I was Gary Kasparov, I would have played chess in probably South America, where all the humidity would have caused the computer to mess up.
Do you find that students, on the whole, are intimidated by the technology, or that they lap it up?
Well, because the community college has such a broad range of students from, young students right in and out of high school, and folks like myself that were coming back after a few years of being out of high school, that there are some that are intimidated, there are some that lap it right up.
Do you remember how old you were when you first pressed the start button on a computer?
Yeah, that would probably be, let's see, it was like 96, so I'm about 33 years old.
So you had over 15 years of your, depending on when you became an adult, your 20s, you were still using electric typewriters or whatever.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, my first semester at Manchester, we didn't have a computer yet at home. And for English composition, I used an electric typewriter.
So you've been through becoming familiar with the computer, not at a very early age. So talk to someone who's 40, 50, 60, driving around and just a little intimidated by all this electronic stuff. What do you say to them?
I went to college to learn about computers. I mean, I was at that.
You decided you were going to defeat this thing.
Well, maybe not defeat it, but I had to recognize that they're there. And where you go, there's computers. You go to the supermarket, and you got the kiosk to show you where the celery is. You go into an automobile parts store, they have computers to see what's in stock. And then you go to the dentist office or a doctor, they're everywhere. And I recognized that, and so I went to school to get a degree in CIS to learn about computers. I didn't realize how vast that field is when I first walked in there with the different disciplines you can have in it.
Now, do you find that, without boasting, do you find that most people in IT are as articulate as you are about it?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we kind of get a bum rap with, you figure it's all the guys that don't have a social life and they stay at home and, compiling code on the weekends and stuff like that.
Well, a serious question. Why are so many males in this business? And I don't find many, your boss is a female, but I don't find too many women in IT.
Oh, well, They're there.
Or am I wrong?
No, they're there. There's plenty of them. I mean, basically, almost all of my instructors at Manchester were female. Yeah, and there's a lot in the field, you know.
Well, we could go on forever. This has been Middlesex Moments. Take a look at our website, mxcc.comnet with two M's, comnet.edu. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College. Have a good day.